The National Immunisation Register and mandatory fields within Medtech. The National Immunisation Register, NIR, is designed to retain all immunisations given to individuals on the current childhood immunisation schedule for eligible patients. Medtech will send immunisation data to the NIR when immunisations are entered correctly into Medtech. This is dependent on the site being set up correctly for NIR and that the patient has an opted-on status. Users have the ability to use a status query within Medtech to obtain the immunisation status of an individual. The status query will send a message via HealthLink to the NIR, and the NIR will return the immunisation history for that patient via HealthLink information into the provider inbox within Medtech. This is useful for patients that are new to your clinic and have come from another place in New Zealand. Mandatory fields within Medtech. To ensure immunisation messages are sent through to the NIR, you need to be aware of the mandatory fields required in the patient register. So if I press F3 to bring up the patient register, within the first tab, the Name 1 tab, the mandatory fields are the name and address of the patient, the date of birth, the NHI number, the gender, the ethnicity. If a patient has more than one ethnicity, you can go to the More For tab and add a second and third ethnicity in there. Within the patient register, the next of kin details are required also. So in the fifth tab of the patient register, you enter the next of kin details with name, surname, street, address, etc., phone numbers, and the relationship. Enter the relationship in full. Once that's all entered, within the immunisation screen itself, you need to ensure that the mandatory fields are also filled in within here. If you don't, Medtech will prompt you to say that the immunisation is not complete and tell you the mandatory fields that are not missing, and you have two options. You can correct it at that point or fix it later. We'd always encourage you to fix it at that point. It'll save you work later on. The mandatory fields within here are provider, and this must be a doctor and have an NZMC number within the staff setup. The vaccinator could be at least a nurse and have an NZMC registration number and the staff setup. You also need to give an outcome for each of the vaccines. Give the route, the site, the batch number and batch expiry. Although not a mandatory field, you should also make sure that auto bill's ticked so that you can get the claims for that particular vaccine.